Hello peeps, Iris here with the layout I made for the Wildhead Kits in May, although I am posting it in June, and it is based on the winning sketch from the sketch challenge. She won a free kit, so if she ever has a challenge like that, you should hit it up. So this video is longer because I'm going to show you some of my process for editing photos in Lightroom and adding some digital brushes in Photoshop. If you want to skip ahead, go to 14 minutes 40 seconds and you'll avoid this whole section. Here I had 4 photos, and in Lightroom I made digital copies. I like to do that because I can compare it to the original and it is non-destructive. So any edits you make, they don't affect your regular photo. This is my favorite editing tool. And you can see here on the side, I picked one of the photos and there are just sliders. And I am moving some sliders just to brighten, sharpen, sort of help the contrast of these photos. And you can see here, this is the luminance. This is my favorite thing to use. You know how you get photos that are in the dark and they look kind of spotty? When you do that luminance or the noise reduction, it sort of smooths things out. Now, if you go too far, it makes it look plasticky. So you just play with that. So I've gone here and I'm increasing exposure, which means to brighten it. The contrast I've already increased a little bit, and I just eyeball it. You can see how things are changing. And I love to increase the whites. It sort of brightens everything up, especially when you're printing. Prints look muddier than your screen because your screen is backlit. So when you increase the whites, it helps with that. Here I felt like her hair was too yellow, so I was playing with the temperature. Now that's warmer and that's cooler. And the tint helps as well, just to get it either a little bit more rosy, which helps balance out the blue, by the way. Now, don't worry about trying to keep up with this. This is just a quick overview of how I use Lightroom. You can just watch as the photo changes. I am curious to find out if anyone is interested in some Lightroom tutorials. It's great for these edits and also the perfect thing for organizing photos and digital products, and that's what I use them for. Okay, so here I clicked on this button at the top that looks like almost like a wand, and it is a brush. And here you have similar sliders for the types of things that you have on the general sliders, but you use a brush so you can localize. So her hair, again, it felt a little too washed out looking. So here I'm deepening her hair, and her skin was getting too washed out from increasing the whites and the brights on the general tab there. So I'm just going through and making sure she doesn't look too washed out or bright. Now I closed the brush, and here you can see compared number 1 and number 2, the same photo. Look how much better that looks. Brighter, crisper. It's going to make a much better print, and it didn't take me long at all to do these edits. That's what I love about Lightroom. So I think I'm here, and this is the great thing. You can copy, and I'm showing you here all the little things that it's copying over. I'm not going to copy over that local adjustments, which is the brush, because it's going to be weird if it's on a different photo. I'll do that separately. But you can crop most of the things you already did, and then you can go to your next photo. Works well when it's a series of photos that are taken at the same time. So I'm going to go to that next photo on the bottom here, and I'm going to the develop module, hit paste, and look how instantly that changes the photo with all the things I already did, so I don't have to do double work. And then I'm gonna just do a few adjustments that are better for this particular photo. It was a little more grainy, so I increased the noise reduction or the luminance. And it did feel like this one's was a little too sharpened. So here, dehaze is another thing that, right, that slider is one of my favorites. And here you go. Look at the difference between 3 and 4, if you can see 3 and 4 there, and look how close it is for 2 and 4 there. Those are the 2 I just changed. So now I'm going to go to, I have 4 photos I'm going to use in this layout. This one, I'm going to show you a bit of this. Similar things. I usually go for exposure first, make it brighter. Increase the whites. It sort of gives you that backlit feel of the print of the computer onto the print. Again, kind of like helps with the muddiness. And if you've ever been disappointed on your prints just not looking as good, this is what you do. The noise rejection a little bit. This one was in a better location, so it wasn't so, it was a different time too, several years later. Saturation, she felt like really red. So I just bumped down the saturation. Contrast, that helps with sharpening and darkening, deepening those blacks. Although here there's a slider for blacks that I sometimes use. Shadows, when you just, even when you increase the exposure, the brightness, the shadows are still too dark. And now look at 5 and 6, the difference already. Isn't that great? And look how quick I've been doing those edits. This is only sped up just a teeny tiny bit. This is mostly real time here. And then the temperature, again, it was looking yellowier, and of course I'm trying to compare it to photos that were taken at a different time. I want them on the same layout. Another great way to use Lightroom is because you can get some more uniformity across photos taken at different times on your same layouts. And I know that's something that people, when it looks really weird, you're like, I have to match the product to the photos, and then the photos all look different. This helps. So I'm just fiddling with the sliders a little more, making some, I can be a little anal with my photos, but look at the difference between 5 and 6 right there. Oh my God. That makes so much difference when you're printing out. You're not going to get all that disappointment in bad, muddy prints. All right, so yeah, I was just kind of really looking at the details to see if there's something else I needed to do. Really, I didn't even have to go through these steps as much. I just am very critical of my photos. So I went back there, and the background was looking too bright in comparison, so I lowered that. Her hair, you can see the difference in the hair I was just pointing out. This one had the number 6 had it was a flash. So you can see how her hair has that white glare, and on the background too. So I'm playing with that highlights slider, and I was just showing you how it goes up and down and what it does. It doesn't do the overall brightness, it does just the highlights, and sometimes that helps. But I found that when I was doing it there, it was changing her more than I wanted. So here I'm going with that brush again, and I chose to bring the highlights, and I'm just going directly on the spots I want to get the highlights down. I didn't want to get the highlights in the background down because then it made it kind of like a weird gray. So now I use that localized brush, and I can pick most of the same sliders, the exposure. And see, I'm gonna go with, I think I just put the noise up a little bit because, oh, right there in her neck area, it looked kind of grainier and a bit too red still. So that's what I'm playing with right here. So please let me know in the comments if you would be interested in some more actual tutorials on how to do this, kind of slow down the process and go through it in more detail. I know I've gone through it very fast here. And then you can see that I was comparing again, just to compare, and now I'm copying again. It brings over most of the things. I'm not going to bring on the local adjustments that I did with the brush. Hit copy, go to the next photo that's the same, very similar, hit paste, and look how much better it is already. And then I'm just going to do a few little adjustments. Again, probably just me being anal. You can work with this as much or as little as you want. I mean, some people probably could use Lightroom just to bump up the exposure, bump up the contrast, maybe sharpen, and that's it, and you're good. It helps because you can do multiples and you don't have to open up Photoshop, which I find, I love Photoshop, but I find it is clunkier for going to each individual edit type. And then here, gonna use the brush again because her face has that glare from the flash, and you can see how it just kind of smooths things out a bit, you know. There you go, see the difference as I slid it up and down. So when you have the flash, which I'm not a fan of, just you can give that a try. The blacks helps darken, like her hair looked a little bit, that flash was over white. And now look at the difference there with 7 and 8 and 5 and 6. And overall, I can't see them all, but all the ones that I worked with just looked much better. And now another great thing, you can go ahead and crop right there. And these are non-destructive. Your original files stay the same. And this is all just things that Lightroom did. And it just doesn't really change the original files. I love it. So in this layout, I am going to use the sketch called for 3 photos. I am using 4 because I had these photos of my daughter who absolutely loves watermelon, and I just happen to have 2 very similar times. They are 3 years apart, or 4 years apart, 2012 and 2016, no, 2011. And I just like the fact that it was so similar. So here, another great thing for Lightroom is the print module. I am going to show you here, you can print, you can change the DPI, you can print this out on, I'm choosing a 4x6 and I'm choosing the semi-gloss, and that would be like I was going to print for my printer, but instead I'm going to print to a file here because, and then it's going to be direct, already formatted for properly 4 2x2 photos on a 4x6, because I'm coming over here to Photoshop. This is the kind of thing I still do in Photoshop, to do some overlays, and these are both from Ali Edwards. And I thought, gosh, I have all these digital products and I'm not using. I really wanted to use them on this because the photos were going to be in circles, and I kind of felt like they'd be plain because I wasn't going to put a white border around the circle, so I am doing these overlays instead. So here I'm going to show you some of this process as well. Very easy to bring in that file I brought in from Lightroom. I saved from Lightroom already, set up for print, and instead of opening each picture individually, so I have 4 different pictures, and then doing these overlays, nope, they're all on my canvas ready to print. That's another thing I love about Lightroom. I could go on about Lightroom. I feel like I'm a Lightroom evangelist. In Photoshop, I'm sure lots of people are familiar with Photoshop, but here you've seen me just grab and use the fill to change the color and then copy it over. And then the part you don't see is me hitting on my keyboard the Command C for copy and then Command V for paste, and then resizing the words. Then I'm going to, once I get it right, I copy that layer, duplicate that layer, and then I'm just going to rotate it over to complete a circle. So, you know, tell me if you feel like you would like some tutorials on Photoshop too, something like this. I know there's a lot of great people that have done all this sort of thing, and there's a lot of classes. I've learned a lot of what I know by classes. I did pay for a rather pricey Lightroom class made for scrapbookers but taught by a photographer at Creative Live. I totally recommend it. It's Lightroom for scrapbookers, and it was by Jared Platt. However, a lot of people bulk at the price. And then I've taken like Ali Edwards' hybrid class, was fabulous. I really recommend everyone go take that one. I'm willing to do some tutorials here and there if people want those. So now I'm showing you here that I've got it all down. I did recolor some black because they weren't going to stand out with the background very well. And then I hit print, and here you finally see my photos printed out on a 4x6. That's another thing. People are always asking, how do you print 3x4s on a in your printer or smaller, you know, 4x4s, 3x3, 2x2s, and you could see I just did that with the help of Lightroom. Used my Fiskars 2-inch punch to punch out the circles, and then here I'm just looking at the papers, my kit. I'd already cut every single one down for my last layout, so I didn't have a 12x12. So I decided on this scheme. The Heidi Swap from the Hawthorne line, that stripe is going to become a border on my left. And then the one on the right, you know, is most of my background with that's from Jen Hadfield Patio Party. And I just felt that the aqua polka dot worked really well with my round photos. My daughter loves aqua. It's about her and her love of watermelon. And I think it's going to be a really fun, juicy layout. You'll see. So arranging these in somewhat of a column, and because I felt like it was going to be weird if they're just kind of floating, I'm going to punch out a whole bunch of circles. These are 3.5 inch with my EK Success punch I've had forever, and just picking out some of those are from the Turn the Page Evans 6x6 pads that were in my kit. And here you're going to see me fiddling, just trying to figure out how I want to do this column. I want to do a lot of layering and overlapping, and 3 things that were a must from my kit onto this layout. I just felt like I really want to use those. Are that Shine Bright die cut with the little mason jar, because you know it feels like summery with the watermelons and the fruit. That little banner that has fruit slices was another thing that I was going to make sure was going to cut into this layout, right? And the third thing was just the fruit, that watermelon in particular, and there's an orange and a lemon. So here I'm just auditioning some of the die cuts, and of course a natural addition, I feel, were the leaves would kind of cut all the roundness. There's a lot of roundness in this layout. So here what I did was I went to my silhouette and I used one of the other, this is another stripe in my kit. It's I think Crepe Paper Wild at Heart, and I felt that still with the overlays on my circular photos, they still felt like they needed some framing, and I wanted to bring in more of that black and white that was on just the left side of the background. So I cut these little circles, and they aren't solid circles. They're just sort of scalloped, and this kind of fun pie chart, and a couple of ones with words. I thought they might be nice behind my photos. I did make the mistake of resizing them barely bigger than my photos. So my photos are 2-inch, and I think I resized them at 2.25. And I knew I wanted to stagger them. I didn't want them completely behind the photo as a mat, but I still felt that I should have resized them somewhat bigger to show more of that black and white stripe. But you know what? I made it work. Like I said, I just sort of, each one is going to be slightly off-centered from the photos, just to peek out. I propped up my photos with some foam because I wanted them to stand out on all those circular layers. And here you can see me fiddling because I really would have liked to have had those little frames somewhat bigger. It's like, where exactly is it going to peek out? But I didn't want to make them solid on the inside. I wanted to have some laciness to this because I felt that the circular layers were going to be so much solid stuff. And then I wasn't thrilled with, a couple of these had words, and I picked Yummy and Love because I thought they would fit well with the theme, but I wasn't thrilled with how that Love one, so the photos were skewed. There's 4 with the little black and white backgrounds, and then there was this love off to the side, and something was off. And I felt that the photos maybe should be slightly more in line with each other, almost in a zigzag pattern. So here I'm committing to some adhesive behind a lot of these things, and I'm also somewhat adjusting all the layers that I have so far. That one you'll see later. I cut off the yellow because I felt like it was sticking up too far. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I wanted another polka dot, but no, it's going to go with the flowers, which I think really having the flower circle helps balance out the flower die cuts. And then tucking in some fruit. All right, and I felt like that the shine little mason jar was very light. The little paper airplanes on the one were very light, so I needed to bring some more of the light, and I just needed more repetition. And here I am adding those. That I feel helps tie it in a lot better. Oh, I just realized I still put that love on there. You'll see later I decide that, okay, see right here? There's 4 photos with that, and then one with the black and white, and then one embellishment that's black and white off to the side, and I just felt like that looked too skewed. I had a little difficult time getting all those little lacy bits glued down, so I just cut off a little bit of that, and now I felt like the love wasn't showing up either. So again, I cut a piece of paper from one of the 6x6 pads to have a repeated circle. A lemon is being auditioned, and a watermelon. The watermelons needed to be in there. While I was still making decisions on more on that column of circles, I decided to start on my title. Okay, so my title is going to read, I think it says, you're an all the fruits kind of girl, but your one true love is watermelon. And I really wanted to have fun with this title and a lot of different little alphas. And I took the opportunity to use one of the puffy watermelons in my kit that is from the patio party line. It replaced the O, and I thought that was a lot of fun. So the funny thing is that you and loved were in a puffy sticker sheet that was really, really old. I don't even know who it came from, and I almost threw that away. And then I came across this layout, and I thought I want to use that love, and at the very least, so I'm keeping that. I wanted to bring more black and white. It felt really weird. So you saw me there audition a little bit and decide on that smaller stripe on a little fold over. I like to call them a peekaboo corner. And I wanted to make sure I brought in, I almost forgot these, the wood buttons from the Pink Fresh Studio BU line. So I've started playing with those, and I picked out some. Okay, so one of my favorite flare shops is the Crafty Pocket, and I hoard her stuff, absolutely hoard it. But she had this one flare, or a couple, I think these are from a couple because the writing is different, food related, and I am so happy I just brought in those. They're more black and white. I get to use some of her flare, and there are more circles, and it makes me so happy. So those were not from my kit, obviously. Those are from my stash. All the alphas are going to be from my stash as well because my kit did not have them. I had a petite kit this month. I've been ordering petite kits because that's what I think I just really love. So now you're going to see me start getting some. This is from Heidi Swap, this little glitter sheet of stuff. And then I wrote out my journaling. My title is basically my journaling. And just pulling a lot of fun alphas, trying to find things that would work. So I did another layout recently for Get It Scrapped where we had mix and match journaling, and I used tile stickers in that. So I think I'm just in that kind of mood because that's what I decided to do here. My title is my journaling, and I'm just busting out all my hoard of stickers, alphas, and just going to town having fun. It's so much fun. I've been recently organizing my alphas. I'm not done yet, but I started the process. So I'm hoping to share that soon. It might make it easier because the way I've went through all of my stash to just find the right alphas was a little cumbersome. And then they just get thrown back together without any rhyme or reason. So I'm excited about finishing up that organization and sharing with you guys. So yeah, just a lot of different alphas. When I started, I was starting some of them, like for instance, I don't think I did it yet, but there's some where I was thinking, okay, I really wanted something tiny for those, are they called prepositions, or just the ones that the words that didn't really matter as much. There's like a hierarchy in the words. Some are bigger because they sort of is what I want to emphasize, and some are smaller. I found that Tim Holtz pad with the really tiny words is one of my favorite things to use. For instance, I used it in the and but because you get these tiny ones interspersed with the bigger individual letter tiles. So you saw me just change a few here and there just to alternate the black and whites and the colors and the emphasis in the different sizes. Now, I'm going to be going through here, just placing them, and hopefully you don't find this a little tedious. I did try to fast forward this or speed it up a lot more, but there just isn't, I don't feel like there's a shortcut for this sort of thing. It's not like you can have a template. Oh, and then that little banner of fruit slices, originally I was thinking of putting above on the right top because the sketch had a banner up there, but you know what, I'm so glad I didn't try to make that work, and I'm putting it in within the title. So much fun. So I realized that things weren't fitting well, and I'm moving everything up. I'm not going to show you all of it, but just the watermelon, I moved it up, and then I couldn't get it straight, so I decided to purposefully make it kind of wonky. And here we fast forwarded to towards the end, and I really love how you know, you can just vary your alphas and the sizes, the colors, the type. Some of these are individual letters, some of them are words, and then just sort of play with the nestling of them and get creative, right? So this is like one of my favorite titles I've ever made. And I felt that that "and" was too small for the space how it ended up, so I just switched that out. Now, the top, like I said, did have a little banner element, and since I used the little fruit banner, I did in the title, I didn't want to copy another banner. So here I just made a little cluster of flowers and another one of the buttons and a little bee. I thought the little bee would be fun. He's also from the puffy stickers. So now I'm here using some nicely called Heidi Shine, the Heidi Swap Color Shine in gold, and I do own it. I have used it before, but I'm not a huge gold person. I've always said I'm not a gold pink girl, but it worked perfectly for this layout. It brought in together some, the puffy stickers did have a tiny bit of gold on them. So yeah, it just fit really well. The love word that I used is like gold, and I love how this came out. I'm really, really happy with this layout. Thank you for, oh, and I added a little stitching. Thank you for sitting through this process video. I hope that you're inspired and that you learned some new things. And please let me know in the comments any feedback about learning more about Lightroom. And if you haven't subscribed, there's a button directly on my videos. And I will see you here next time.